Welcome to the Seahawks Draft Blog live stream. Rob Staton and Robbie Williams here to reflect on a pretty eventful first day of the 2022 NFL Draft. Lots going on, but we're going to start by talking about the Seahawks. Obviously, they've taken Charles Cross with the 9th overall pick. Robbie, what was your reaction to the pick?
Well, I mean, I don't know how everyone else felt, but I was pretty hot after because I really wanted Jermaine Johnson, and the fact that he was there, I felt like that would have been a better pick. After letting my emotions calm down a little bit, I don't understand the scheme fit really, but I mean, if he's a good pass blocker from what I'm gathering and what people are saying, it seems like maybe he has the potential to be there. I definitely like the pick a lot more than I like Trevor Penny, and I'll say that, which is what my biggest fear was. So, yeah, my initial gut reaction by seeing who was available, it surprised me a little bit because I actually never thought Cross would ever even make it to us. I don't know. It's just a weird day in the draft in general. I mean, the run on wide receivers, trades for wide receivers, and everything like that. It felt just bananas at one point. I was like, what is happening here? But hey, I mean, I think this goes against Pete's philosophy of running the football because this guy is a pass protector and comes from the air raid offense. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, if he pans out, great. Left tackles are always valuable and super valuable in this league, and it'll be interesting to see how he plays out.
Okay, so my instant reaction was quite disappointing as well, just because we don't get to sit in a room with Jermaine Johnson and get to know him. I've never spoken to him. I've never, I've seen the odd interview here and there, and there definitely wasn't anything alarming in those interviews. Sometimes you can tell. I mean, like watching Malik McDowell, you could tell that there was some issues there, and there were reported issues quite a lot as well. And with Jermaine Johnson, I never saw any of that. As far as I could tell, he was like an alpha male. I thought he took a real gamble going to Florida State, and it had paid off. He was great at the Senior Bowl. And even yesterday and today, Robbie, there were people tweeting out in the media, he's going to go in the top 10. He's going to go earlier than people think. Some of the big name reporters and also some of the big name analysts were saying that. So it was a surprise. And, having sort of thought for a long time that he might be like an ideal pick for Seattle at number 9. And to get there, and he was there, and to pass on him was frustrating at the time. Now, with hindsight, we know he's gone a lot later in the draft, and it takes some of the edge off that. If he was picked at number 10 by the Jets instead of number, whatever it was, 27 by the Jets, that would have been harder to take for me because you would have been directly comparing Johnson to Cross forever for their entire careers. So at least we've avoided that with him falling into the first round. On Cross, people who follow the blog and have followed us, Robbie, and have followed the podcast will know I'm not a huge Charles Cross fan. I don't think he has amazing upside. He's not a big offensive tackle, and people say, well, he's big enough. Well, he's 6'4.5". He's playing weights around 305, so he's not traditionally, so the ideal size I think is 6'5", 315 pounds, and he isn't that. He may get up to that, but he isn't that at the moment. And he seems quite compact to me in terms of his frame. He ran a decent 40, 4.95. It's not amazing. It's not like 4.8 something or anything like that. He jumped to 26-inch vertical at the combine. He's not an explosive tester, and his agility testing ran in the 4.6s in the short shuttle. Nothing to write home about. There's not one thing that stands out about him physically that you think, that's something to latch onto. Now, there's a lot of people out there who, whenever you bring up traits and physicality and stuff like that, they suddenly get very angry and think, well, what does any of that matter? Does he play well? I've watched a lot of his tape, because I watched him in anticipation of him potentially being a pick for the Seahawks, as I did with all the potential left tackles and pass rushers and quarterbacks and all of that. And, the thing that I saw on tape, Robbie, was just a lot of reps that were very similar, to the point where it actually got quite boring to watch because it's the air raid offense. They drop back and throw very quickly, time and time and time again. And it felt like I was watching the same thing time and time again. And once you sort of worked out, okay, this is what is problematic and this is what is good, you kind of just see it happen. There's no sort of variety there. There was no, they're 3rd and 2 in the opponent's half. Let's see if they run behind Charles Cross here. There's none of that. It's 3rd and 2. Oh, we'll throw it. It's 3rd and 30. Well, we'll throw it. Oh, it's 3rd and 10. We'll throw it. It's 1st and 10. We'll throw it. It's just the same thing over and over and over again. It's just a different throw. So, what were the pros? I think with what he was asked to do, which was essentially get in the way just long enough for the ball to get out, he's good at that. He clamps on. I would suggest that he's very good at sort of just getting in the way long enough without holding, without really dominating anybody on the edge. He's not going to be that type of player. He gets into position well and he executes. My slight concern with that is he's going to have to do more than that at the next level. It's going to be a different scheme. He's going to be asked to, have variety in terms of, okay, don't give the play away before the snap with your positioning and your stance, because this could be a run on a short down and distance. He's going to come across different challenges with quarterbacks holding onto the ball longer, I would suggest. It's inevitable, whoever the quarterback is. And he's going to come up against, top players in this division, the Nick Bosa's and stuff like that. Obviously, Chandler Jones has moved on, thank goodness. So it'll be interesting to see how he copes with all of that. The concern that I have, Robbie, is a pretty significant, technical flaw, which is that he has a very narrow base, very narrow, which means that his feet are quite close together. And as I was kind of watching him, I was thinking, if I was Nick Bosa watching this, I'm just going to bull rush this guy again and again and again. Because if you are quite narrow in your stance and you're sliding quite narrow, it doesn't take much to get you off balance. If you just sort of do the speed to power rush or your bull rush, my plan right now, based on what I've seen, would be just to bull rush the crap out of him over and over and over again. And I'm going to be interested to see how he handles that, because he isn't a drop and plank the anchor type, because he's not huge. So I'm interested to see how this plays out. I've seen this here. And look, I'm not going to put loads of comments in unless you send super chats in, because we want to get through it, Robbie. But Cross is an athletic freak. Cross is not an athletic freak. Can we just be clear on that? What you have drafted is not an athletic freak. You've drafted someone who is very, very good at pass blocking in the Mike Leach offense. And now you've got to hope that translates to your offense. That's my impression of Charles Cross, Robbie. I've got a couple of other thoughts to share on him as well, but I don't want to just take the whole time up talking myself. Have you got anything you want to add?
I mean, not really. Nothing that's that's going to change, I think, people's opinions or anything like that. I think, I didn't really do a lot of studying on Cross, just for the simple fact I didn't think he would make it to us. And he came from an air raid off. He just didn't, scheme wise, he just didn't seem like he fit the bill for what we would want in a left tackle. So I was, shocked when we actually drafted him. So, I'm curious to see how it plays out as well. I want to see if they get him in, if he has this. Maybe they saw something in him, that wasn't on that on tape. Maybe they saw something when at the Senior Bowl or whatever it is, or not the Senior Bowl, but just whatever in practices or anything. Maybe they saw something that we're not seeing. But they've got to do something that's going to be a little different. I mean, I like that it wasn't Trevor Penny, because I just think it fits something that would have just been frustrating for me. I don't think that would have. I know it fits his physical traits fit what they normally go for. So I like that it's a little off the cuff, a little bit. I would have liked to see a trade down. I think I would have rather see something like that. And there's a lot. This is also filling that need that when I would really like to have seen them do something where it was best player available, not the best player available for a specific need. Granted, we have two big holes at left and right tackle. And so this is what they're going to, we knew they were going to go for that. And they just happened to do it in the first day. And, they stayed at that 9 pick. It's going to be interesting to see what they do in the second round. There are a lot of good players left, like a lot. And I was surprised by like I said, I was really surprised by the run on wide receivers. And I think we can still come out of this draft really, really well going forward. Play the cards right here in the next round. So a lot of good players.
I know. Look, I agree with you. And when you trade Russell Wilson and you end up in the top 10 and you draft our left tackle, you need in that sort of, ideally you come out with that first pick with a cornerstone player at a premium position, and left tackle is a premium position. So, yeah, I mean, if it works out, I really hope it works. I'm not going to be rooting against Charles Cross. I'm giving an opinion. And this is what I got. People are going, I'm already looking at it in the comment section here. Like, can we have a bit of civility here? Right. Okay. Just because somebody's on here and isn't just going, it's the best thing ever. Whoa, well done, Seahawks, A+. You don't have to be abusive. You don't have to be insulting. I've spent the last 4 months basically running a second full-time job watching these players. And I feel like I'm in a position to talk about what they are and what they aren't. And I'm going to be wrong about some players and I'm going to be right about some players. Okay. But we don't have to start insulting each other because I'm not just being amazingly positive about Charles Cross. I said all this before they picked him, and I'm saying it after. It's just the way it is. And I'm seeing some, the people saying, he's a great athlete. I've seen, 94th percentile 40. A 4.95 40. It's good. It's fine. It's a good 40. It's a good 40. 4.95. It's not an amazing 40. It's just a good one. And he, 26-inch vertical is not good. And I think it was like a 4.65 short shuttle is nothing to write home about. So, I'm just saying, he doesn't have amazing athletic upside. We don't have to pretend that he has. I hope that he's one of those players who succeeds despite that. And it happens. David Bakhtiari is one of the least athletic tackles in the league, but he's also an outlier. We have to, I've done an article on that. If you find it, I wrote a piece saying why athletic explosive testing matters. If you have a look at that, offensive linemen who are generally the best in the league or the best performing in the league are very explosive. There are 1 or 2 outliers. Brandon Scherf's not particularly explosive. David Bakhtiari is not particularly explosive. Pretty much everybody else is, and that's the point that I'm trying to get to here. He is not particularly explosive. That's by the by. The other thing that I want to talk about is, and just the final point on what you said, Robbie. You're right. They've got a tackle now. Let's see how he gets on. There's nothing else you can do. He's here. The Seahawks have picked him. I'd have much rather the Giants had taken him and left Evan Neal for Seattle. I think he's the best tackle in the draft, or the best offensive lineman in the draft. And I think they could have put him at guard or tackle, and it would have been great. But it isn't. It's Charles Cross. They've taken him. Remind me if I want to make a point on the draft and what this pick kind of says about the draft for me, Robbie. If I forget about that because I'm waffling on, please remind me to come back to that. But the other question mark that I have from this is, and this is a concern for me, Robbie, is that Pete Carroll, we all know what Pete Carroll wants to be. We know the kind of offense Pete Carroll wants to run. We know the kind of team that Pete Carroll wants to be. And whenever they do a draft, it kind of feels like they're not building that team. It's not clear. You wouldn't, if you didn't know Pete Carroll, if you just sort of come across a list of players and you've never heard anything about Pete Carroll, and you looked at the players that the Seahawks draft, you wouldn't pick out that he wants to play P-ball. You'd be thinking, this is a finesse football team. D. Eskridge instead of Creed Humphrey and stuff like that. And now Charles Cross, your first top 10 pick in 12 years. The first pick after the Russell Wilson trade is a finesse pass blocking tackle. That's what he is. And I don't know. I'm just a little bit baffled by that, Robbie, because we know what they want to be. They want to be really physical. They want to punch you in the mouth. They keep saying that. They've said it for years, and they're not building that kind of team. They're just not. And I look at this now and I go, okay, you filled a hole. You've got Charles Cross. You filled a hole at tackle. You still need another. The pass rush is completely inadequate. Yeah, I know they've got 2 picks coming up. They could change that. I'm not sure that if you take Boya Mafe, that your pass rush is going to be elite moving forward. So, Uchenna Nwosu's come in, didn't get one of the top pass rushers. So that's still as it is. Your secondary is what it is. You've still technically, I would imagine, got to replace Bobby Wagner. You've got to draft a running back at some point. You've still got holes on the offensive line. This is a holy roster, a really holy roster. And it's just hard, Robbie, to look at it and go, what kind of team are they actually building? And how are they actually, what's the plan here? And we'll know more in a couple of days. I get it.
Yeah.
But when you've just watched the Jets, like, okay, we'll
Jets
go and
crushed it today.
We'll go and get a top cornerback, and then we'll go and get, a receiver because they needed one for their young quarterback, and then they'll trade back in, a bag of footballs for Jermaine Johnson. And I get it. Their second year of a rebuild, they've traded very well. They, had Seattle's pants down in the Jamal Adams trade. They had Carolina's pants down in the Sam Darnold trade. That's why they've got this war chest of picks. But I just sort of look at them and think, yeah, do you know what? That's a build. And you look at the Ravens and you go, yeah, okay, Hamilton and Linderbaum. I can see that's very Ravensy. I can see that. You've got the Eagles here. It's like the Eagles. Oh, we'll just take Jordan Davis and trade for AJ Brown for half the price of Jamal Adams. It's hard to sort of when you see other teams doing stuff like that, you think, what are the Seahawks doing? Where are they going?
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, they had to have saw something across that they really, really liked, and I don't know if it was pre-draft or whatever they saw. They must have saw something that they really liked that they believe they can coach this guy up. I see somebody, I don't know, posted, I'm not going to go look for it, but said underwhelming pick. And I think that's just I think we all kind of expected that though, right? I mean, coming into today's draft, I posted prior to the actual draft. I was like, someone said something about being like, I'm preparing myself to be disappointed. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing as well, because that's what it always feels like. You kind of get these guys in your head that you want. And then, I will say it. My initial gut reaction was very, very disappointed. I've come around on it a little bit because I really disliked Trevor Penning for us, and so for me, I think I'm more interested. Okay, we got that first pick out of the way. Let's see what we do with these next two picks, knowing that there are a lot of great players out there. Trying to look forward instead of look back, and hopefully we can snag some guys. There's some I'm looking at this list and I'm like, yeah, I take him. So I think this could be, hopefully Cross can be a building block and help us. But we'll see where he's going to play. Right tackle, left tackle. We'll see.
Yeah, well, presumably left tackle. I mean, obviously something. They don't want Dwayne Brown back, I would imagine, from this, because I don't know, it would be a curious move to bring him back now, unless they bring him back and they put Cross at right tackle. And that would be a very Seahawks thing to do. I mean, the guy's a left tackle in college. Play him at left tackle. Don't put him on the right side here. He's a left tackle. Play him on at left tackle. Let him take his lumps. Let him learn at left tackle in your scheme. That's what you've got to do. You can't baby him. You've taken him in the top 10. They've got to play him at left tackle now. But I mean, look, again, they've got a lot. They didn't trade down, so they don't have any extra picks. I kind of listened to some of the stuff, and I'd kind of sort of switched off to the negative things I didn't like that I was hearing, Robbie, about trading back in for Desmond Ridder. I'd kind of blocked that out and was then sort of concentrating on more picks. And, when getting like an extra third or a fourth, being sat here now with those extra picks, having spoken to somebody in the league yesterday and him talking about how great rounds 2 to 4 are going to be, it was like, oh, could they get a bit? I started to think, oh, could they get a bit more? Could they trade? Hey, they trade down a little bit, and if it is Trevor Penny now, okay, whatever. But can they get some extra picks and stuff like that? And they've not done that. I guess I'm just sort of sat here now. We've maybe we're halfway through the off season now. The first round's out of the way because we've seen free agency, and now we've seen the first round pick, and we know what the Seahawks have got. And what they've got is Drew Lock and Geno Smith at quarterback, Charles Cross at left tackle. They've removed Bobby Wagner, Russell Wilson, Carlos Dunlap. Am I missing anything else? Benson Mayowa, DJ Reed. And they brought in, Shelby Harris, Noah Fan, who's a finesse tight end. Obviously, Drew Lock, I've already mentioned. Who am I missing? Uchenna and Wosu. Artie Burns has come in to try and replace DJ Reed. You just sort of look at the team, Robbie, and you go, okay, what is the plan really? What is the actual plan? What kind of team are you trying to build? What is the direction you're going in? Is this just a write-off year? And they can't, because it looks like a write. I mean, like right now, this roster looks like prime top 5 next year. Just take your hits in 2022.
Yeah, but I think well, I don't think it would have been that way no matter who we would have drafted, right? I mean, I don't see.
Fair point.
I mean, we were kind of expecting. We were saying this is a 2-year thing, right? We don't want them to draft a quarterback this year. We want them to go.
Would you feel differently though if you were sat here now and you could say, right, okay, the Seahawks, if nothing else, have got Darrell Taylor on one side and let's say Kayvon Thibodeau screaming off the edge on the other?
Well, sure. I mean, I'd feel a lot better about the defense, but and that's why another reason why I wanted Jermaine Johnson. I want us to build up that defense. I would have rather, in my opinion, go for best player available, and I thought he was the best player available. But, yeah, but I mean, going forward, they still have opportunity to add some good pieces. So I'm trying to stay positive about it, but it's hard. I get it, but we knew like this. They weren't going to build a roster in the draft this year that was going to compete for a Super Bowl. This was an opportunity to help build some building blocks so next year when they go get, hopefully the quarterback of their future and, some other pieces and play out free agency when they have more money, then that's when we should hopefully be competing again.
Yeah, no, I agree. And look, I'll run through some, and I don't think we're being negative, by the way. I think we're asking questions in the way that we always have, and people.
That's fair,
yeah. We were saying, what was it, 18 months ago now, Robbie, when we first started talking about the possibility of Russell Wilson leaving Seattle. Why are you being negative? But it was an important conversation to have. And this feels like an important conversation to have because you can't just be, no one's being negative for the sake of it. I think it's fair to say that over the last few months, I mean, some guy sent me a tweet earlier saying, you are the most pessimistic, negative person ever. And I was like, have you not listened to the streams and the podcasts and you've not read the articles for the last 3 months? You'd be hard pushed to find someone who's more enthusiastic than me about this offseason. I've loved every minute of it. I think it's been a breath of fresh air to be able to sort of look at players, study them and do all of this. I'm not, and look, I will run through a list of players that would get me very excited tomorrow. It's the options are great for day 2. And they've got 2 very early picks coming up. So, we will talk about that. But I also think it's fair to sort of question, where this team's going, how. So when you start off in 2010, it was kind of like, well, it's a ground zero thing. It's obviously a build. It wasn't a rebuild. It was a build. And they were just kind of piecing it together. And we all kind of accepted 2-3 year plan. But, Carroll says constantly, no, we're not doing that. We're trying to do this. We're trying to do that. And this isn't a rebuild. It's a, whatever, blah, 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 and maybe it's just lip service, but I'm trying to sort of work out how do they get from where they are now to being a contender again? Because they don't have a quarterback. They're probably not going to have a quarterback this year. Who are the blue chip players 2 or 3 years down the line? And I have to say right now, I'm unsold on Charles Cross being somebody who is a top 5-10 left tackle in the NFL within 3-4 years. I'm unsold on that, but we'll see. I hope he is. I hope we're sat here in 3 years' time going, he has been a lot better than expected.
Yeah. I mean, if people want to get all negative, I mean, listen, I don't want to say we trashed Daryl Taylor, but we did not love the Daryl Taylor pick. And even when he came in after when he got hurt, we're like, both of us said, "Hey, I don't think he's gonna play."
Well,
And
let's remember though, we didn't trash the pick. I think
right,
we complained about it when he was missing for the whole season. So
sure,
during the season, we were going, why have they spent a pick on a guy who can't play? I
yeah,
think in
I
the
guess
immediate aftermath of the pick, it was like, he's a Seahawks pass rusher. You know, he
right.
looked
So
the part.
I think my point to this though is when people are getting like, "Oh, why are you so maybe thinking that we're being negative or whatever the case?" No, the question is there. We did the same thing with like Daryl Taylor, and then look at we think Daryl Taylor's great now. We're happy he's a Seahawk, and hopefully the same thing happens with Charles Cross. But the question is not. I don't think it's that 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 absurd to be like, how does this guy actually fit into what Pete has said he wants this team to be, which is a run the football team, and you draft a left tackle that comes from the air raid. I'm not saying he can't run block. I just doesn't have much experience on it. That at least that we can tell. So I mean, maybe he can. I don't know, but right now there's some scheme fits and question marks, and I think it's fair to ask that question. By the way, we did miss a super chat. Someone posted that.
I've got one here. Yeah, I'll read this out before we move on. Hey guys, how does Cross compare to a guy like Laramie Tunsil? I've seen that comparison online. Either way, I hope Cross is a 10-year starter for the Seahawks. Yeah, I don't see Laramie Tunsil personally. I mean, Tunsil was expected to be like, it was a potential number 1 overall pick. He fell because of the gas mask bong. And he's gone on and had a pretty decent career. I mean, he's obviously been traded for a massive trade. I mean, like Tunsil was universally regarded as a high pick. I've got the notes here with the guys who cover the draft online. So Dane Brugler, I think that's how you pronounce it, at The Athletic had him rated quite highly, had him at number 7 overall. Said he lacks ideal ball power, especially in the run game. But he processes things quickly and shows outstanding hand exchange and movement patterns in pass protection. He projects an NFL starter with Pro Bowl level talent thanks to his pass blocking. So that's what Brugler says. But Lance Zierlein had him as the 17th overall prospect. And this is the thing, Robert. I've seen people like, I don't know, it's always been like a level of smugness about this. Oh, this has been universally accepted, this pick, as a good move. Well, Lance Zierlein had him as the 17th overall prospect. And Daniel Jeremiah had him as the 22nd overall prospect. So not everybody viewed Charles Cross as a top 10 pick. Some of the guys who get the most attention in the media, like Daniel Jeremiah, thought he was a bottom third of the first round draft pick. So, yeah, I mean, it's not what I'm saying. It's not just me. It's not, there's quite a few people out there who are unsold. Ray Roberts was another one. He was asked about the offensive lineman, and he spoke glowingly about Evan Neal and Ike Ekwonu, and then was lukewarm on Charles Cross when he was on the radio not so long ago. So again, it's not just me. But Slacker Hero, thank you for super chat, much appreciated. Get those super chats in, and Robbie and I'm sure I can speak for Robbie on this occasion. Also hope that he's a 10-year starter for the Seahawks. I have to say, I wasn't that excited about Russell Okung either, Robbie. When they drafted him, I was hoping for Trent Williams. I'm not saying that after the fact. I wasn't that enthused about Russell Okung. But the thing about Russell Okung, he didn't get a second contract in Seattle. And he was good-ish, not great. So I hope that Charles Cross does better than that, because it'd be nice to actually retain this guy, or like want to use a 5th-year option on him, for example, and stuff like that. So so we'll see, and we'll see how this thing progresses. And I want to talk about other players in a bit. The point I wanted to come back to, Robbie, was about this draft. And you can't help but sort of reflect on the Russell Wilson trade at a time like this. And when they made this pick and it was a top 10 pick, to me, it just feels a little bit like they were like about 5 picks away from where they probably ideally would have been for this. They really needed, with that trade, to be in position to either get a replacement quarterback, one of the top tackle, let's say, in the draft, or the top pass rusher, or the second top pass rusher if the first one was so good that he would go early. And they weren't. 9 was quite far down. You couldn't do anything about that. Denver couldn't give you a 5th overall pick, 4th overall pick, or anything like that. But ultimately, when you see Derek Stingley come off the board and Aidan Hutchinson and Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal, I was sort of, you sit there and you think, yeah, these are the players that you want to launch a rebuild with for me. If it had been Derek Stingley, exciting, a player who legitimately could be the best at his position. And I think Thibodeau could be one of the top 5 pass rushers in the league. And Evan Neal's got a great future. And I think that's part of the thing. They're just a little bit lower down. And I think what we've seen in this first round, which is why it's been so unpredictable, Robbie, why it has had these massive trades involved in it, with 2 big name receivers being traded, is that I think once you got past that, and this is why Stingley went 3rd and why Thibodeau went 5th and why Neal went 7th. Once those guys went, I think people just generally thought, do you know what? From about 9 to 32, there's not a great deal of difference here. There's not actually that much in terms of a grade between this guy here and that guy there. And if you look, Zierlein does the grades, doesn't he? And he puts the score. And Charles Cross is a 6.44 on his board. Malik Willis is a 6.41, and he's not been drafted in the first round. So 0.03 of a difference between Charles Cross at number 9 and Malik Willis, who's not been drafted. And generally in the top 10, you would have guys who are like 6.7, 6.6, 6.5, who were readily available. And Seattle's essentially been forced to take a 6.44. Charles Cross in another draft, Robbie, would have been the 18th, 19th, 20th pick. If Christian Darrisaw was in this draft, he probably would have gone ahead of Charles Cross. And he was like the 21st overall pick last year. That's the draft. This is the draft. They've ended up having to settle. And look, I don't know why, but like people are hammering Tony Pauline on Twitter. I don't get this. I don't get why people are so. Tony's reported something. So he said they wanted to trade down and take Trevor Penning. If the Seahawks had been able to trade down, I bet they would have taken Trevor Penning. They haven't traded up for quarterback. True. Let's not count our chickens. If they draft Desmond Ridder tomorrow, what exactly is Tony said that's wrong? They didn't trade down, so they took a tackle. And if they take Ridder tomorrow without trading up, well, they've basically done what he said they were going to do. So I don't really know why people are having a go here. But one thing that Tony did say today, Robbie, was that Seattle were desperate to trade down, desperate to move down. And I think it played out that way. I think that really they settled on Charles Cross. That's how I think. And that they're not, I don't think they were devastated by it. I don't think they were sitting there going, oh no, Thibodeau's gone, Stingley's gone. I don't think it was that. I think they probably anticipated it. I think they probably ideally would have had one of those 2 guys or Evan Neal. But it didn't happen. And they probably knew it was not going to happen. And then once the trade offers didn't come in and they couldn't move down, they took Charles Cross. But I don't know. As the first, if that is what it is, Rob, if I'm right on that, as the first pick after trading your franchise quarterback is settling on a top 10 pick. You've had the first top 10 pick in over a decade. And then maybe they've had to settle on somebody who otherwise would have been like a 20th overall pick in another draft. Is that?
Yeah,
that bothers me a little bit.
That's why I don't like the draft for need and just draft the best player available. This is what I've been wanting them to do for a long time, and I think you look at teams like the Ravens who do that, and just seems to work. And we always tend to put ourselves in this hole where we need to draft the best player in that position for where we're at. And kind of roll the dice instead of just taking the best player available. I see a lot of people saying it could be worse, and it could have been worse, right? For my opinion, I think Penny would have been a terrible pick for us, and I was never on board for that. So I'm glad that didn't happen. There are things that could have happened.
They could have took a quarterback.
They could have took a quarterback, right?
I mean, would have been a lot worse.
Right. Thank God we didn't do any of those things. So yeah, listen, I know some people are gonna like this, some people are not gonna like it, but I'm kind of holding off. I set myself up today, kind of prepared for being semi-disappointed. By the way, your site went down, which that actually pissed me off. Your site went down for about 8 minutes.
Geez, I'm sat there like, what's going on? Like, is it my internet? Is the site crash?
Get back in. Yeah, too many
people were hitting it. I mean, like to pull back the curtain.
Yeah. But anyway, so that was just another thing. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the next.
This is the thing, like
picks.
What? Was just on another stream and they were like, Rob Staton is pissed. Is that the case? No, we're just talking about it. I mean, this is what I don't get. Like, if you're on another stream and you're posting stuff like you're saying stuff like that, why? We're just analysing the pick. I think we're making some fair points. People will ultimately be, they will have their own opinions on this. People will just look at the position. I mean, this is one of the things that I found, Robbie, in the build-up to the draft. There was a lot of just draft a left tackle talk. And, I never quite buy for that because they might as well just say just draft a quarterback because that's the biggest need, isn't it? So they should have, by that nature, they should have just drafted Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett or Matt Corral or whatever. The minute you start picking positions, I don't know. You've got to judge the player. And what we're talking about here is the player, the prospect, what to think about him. I've said all of this about Charles Cross before the draft, and I'm saying it about him now. I'm not changed my opinion to be deliberately negative. Am I pissed? No. Am I a bit underwhelmed by this pick? Yeah. I'm a bit underwhelmed by it. Am I wondering exactly what the type of team is they're trying to create, given it still continues to kind of contradict the style of play that they want? Yeah. Do I wonder how Charles Cross is going to fit into this kind of offense, given they don't do anything that is particularly consistent with the air raid? Yeah. Do I think he'd be a better fit for like Green Bay or Kansas City maybe, or one of those teams, Robbie? Yeah. David Bakhtiari, great player. How would he get on in Seattle? I don't know. Would he be as good in Seattle? Don't know. We'll find out. I mean, certainly I'm not going to start commenting on what other people on other streams are doing. I just think that's silly. But then I think Seahawks fan base has kind of got into that silliness now. Everyone's got to constantly be having a grudge with somebody else or arguing with somebody else or, getting one over on somebody else. And I don't really understand why that is. We're just Seahawks fans talking about what they're doing in the draft. I'm just trying to block some spam on the comment section there.
You don't want web hot girls.
No, not right now. Maybe later. Maybe later today. A little pick me up there. I mean, I think Sean's made a good point here. And look, I want to get on to other topics, Robbie. Thank you, Sean, for the first part of that comment. They draft guys that don't fit the team they're trying to build. That's really the point. Is you can square it at the circle and say you draft a left tackle, they fit. It's just that fit. It's just for the scheme, and I don't want to see this team built with a kind of in all different directions. There was quite a clear direction. People hated the James Carpenter pick, didn't they, Robert? But that was he fit what they were trying to do, which is run the ball down your throat. And when they trade for Marshawn and stuff like that, and they built a great defense the way that they did. I don't know. I just want to see some evidence that they are going to build that the team that fits the Carroll philosophy. And I'm not sure that this is a great fit in that regard. If it had been Evan Neal, wow, I'd have been pumped about that. That'd have been a very good pick. So, look, you are allowed actually to be underwhelmed by a draft pick. You don't have to be really positive all the time. I hate the idea that we're really negative all the time, Robbie. It really pisses me off because, I am a huge Seahawks fan, and I don't spend sort of 6-7 hours a day doing this for basically nothing, because I want to see the Seahawks fail or just be proven right. Or I do it because I love the Seahawks. I love following the Seahawks. I love everything about the NFL and the draft and covering this team. And I want to see them do well. I'm desperate for them to do well. I'm desperate for them to get back to Super Bowls and win them. But I'm not going to agree with everything that they do. And, this pick has given me a bit of pause for thought. That's it. So, yeah. And I can see people are talking about the size again. Listen, people can try and justify it as much. He's not a big guy. Charles Cross is not a big guy. He's not. For a tackle, he's not a big guy. and he lacks muscle definition. One of the first things he needs to do, Robbie, is get in the bloody gym, right? Okay, that is one thing. Look at it. Watch that Big Boys Club nonsense on YouTube that Fox have put out. Big Boys Club. Here's some offensive linemen. Let's talk to them about very little. Let's promote Duke Manyweather, who, by the way, I have blocked on Twitter because he just suddenly must have been searching for Charles Cross's name on Twitter a few weeks ago and found that, like, I just a reply to someone who asked me what I thought about Charles Cross, and he just quote tweeted it and started being really abusive and insulting for no reason. And I was like, block. And then I watched that thing. I was like, is that guy? I didn't even know who he was. And I was like, oh, he's on the TV now and they're promoting his training. So that's just adding to the amazing night we're having here.
Yeah,
I'm drafting Charles Cross.
There you go.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway,
let's talk about the second round. What's to come.
Well, before we do that, let's talk about some of the other things that happened in the first round.
Oh, yeah. Dude, what a wild first round.
I mean, AJ Brown has now gone to the Eagles. I mean, like, that wasn't even touted. I mean, like, obviously there's a lot of talk about Deebo Samuel.
Right.
But AJ Brown going to the Eagles, and now $25 million a year, Robbie, my head started spinning at that, because that is now the starting point for negotiations for DK Metcalf. It's not just sign that deal. DK can now go to the Seahawks and say, that's where we begin talks, because the Seahawks are going to wait, as they always do. I don't understand why they do this, Robbie. Again, I'm not trying to be negative, but you can clearly see that by waiting until after the draft, because we've just got too much on with the draft, there is no benefit to that ever. It cost them Frank Clark waiting to get a contract done. They should have preempted him taking a step forward and just given him a contract the way that Minnesota did with Danielle Hunter. And now with DK Metcalf, they've let the market grow and grow and grow and grow. If the Niners sign a deal with Deebo Samuel, which is even bigger than this, what then? I mean, like, are you willing to pay him $30 million a year? Where does it stop? Because you've not traded him. You're not going to trade him now. There's no first round. Unless you're going to trade him after the draft for first round picks next year. But then you just lose him this year. You might as well wait till next year to do that. So, I don't know. That to me was interesting, Robbie, because you're now in the situation of you either trade DK Metcalf in a year when he's on the franchise tag, or you pay him $25 million a year.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my first thought is what will happen is they'll probably franchise tag him and trade him. That would be probably the most likely scenario. I don't know if they're going to go down there. Maybe they will. I don't know. I guess it depends on if they get they try to pick up a quarterback on cheap or something like that, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've got a super chat here from Jared. Besides Jermaine Johnson, who would you have taken at 9? CC was best.
I don't know if I would have tried. I mean, I don't know if the offers were there. It's all speculation, but I think I would have tried really hard to trade down as much as possible and then see what was available there. But I don't know. I really wanted JJ. So that's.
I mean, on my board, I had, and again, this is not just me. Daniel Jeremiah had Charles Cross ranked 22nd on his big board. Dan Sealiam had him at 17. So it's not just me. I had Zion Johnson ahead of him. I had Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt ahead of him. I had Travis Jones ahead of him. He's still available. I had Abraham Lucas ranked ahead of him. Obviously, all the receivers, they weren't going to take any of them. Tyler Linderbaum, Cam Jurgens. Yeah, so quite a few. There's Kyle Hamilton ahead of him, obviously a safety. I didn't want to go down that road. But there were players there. I mean, honestly, if they'd have drafted Jordan Davis, as much as it wasn't a need, Robbie, I'd be really excited about that, just because it's just like, wow, they've just drafted Jordan Davis, and I still maintain that, any Georgia defender drafted is a good move from this particular defense. So that would have excited me more. That would have excited me more than Charles Cross. And also, I think, and we'll get on to second rounders in a bit, but I think Abraham Lucas is a terrific player. But there were some other shocks, not just the AJ Brown thing and how it impacts the Seahawks. I'm just having a look down the list now, Robbie. I was a bit surprised that Drake London went number 8 overall. That was probably one of the worst on-stage interviews I've ever seen either. He just didn't want to talk and didn't want to be there. I think the Ravens drafting Hamilton and Linderbaum, that's just classic Ravens, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I thought the Marquise Brown trade was crazy too.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't get that. I mean, I know that they've got the connection because they both played at Oklahoma, but as a Seahawks fan, my reaction to that was not, oh my God, they've got Marquise Brown. My reaction was, what have they done that for? Which would, if I was an Arizona fan, I'd be kind of like a little bit miffed about that. Especially if you have to pay him because he's just been so inconsistent in his career. So I wasn't worried about that. I can't believe the Texans took Kenyon Green 15th overall. Can't believe the Washington Commanders took Jahan Dotson at 16 overall.
That did not make any sense at all. I don't know what they were doing.
I didn't get that. I mean, they traded away from Olave and Williamson,
yeah.
Dotson.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, like maybe they all had them all graded similarly and they got extra picks. Fair enough. But I don't understand how you can have them all graded similarly. I think the Zion Johnson pick for Chargers was good.
That was a great pick.
I look, there'll be Packers fans going absolutely apeshit by what's happened today, Robbie, because they haven't got a receiver. And I really don't really understand what their plan is at receiver because they just don't have any. And they might take one in the second round, admittedly. But even then, a second round receiver for Aaron Rodgers, the most demanding quarterback in the league. That seems like a risky move. But I do like Quay Walker. I like him more than like him. I really like Quay Walker. I think 22 was surprisingly high. Really like Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt. Terrific. 2 Georgia defenders. Can't go wrong with that. I quite like what they did. It's just what are they doing? They're going to do a receiver. Hated the Dallas pick, Tyler Smith. Obviously, the Jets smashed it. I thought the Giants did a great job as well, Robbie. Getting Thibodeau and Evan Neal, 2 of the best trench players, setting yourself up for the long haul there. I think the Giants did as good a job as the Jets, if not better, actually, just picking the right guys.
Yeah.
And Cole Strange, how could I forget? Cole Strange has gone in the first round.
He went in the first, which is a little surprising.
Explosive traits matter.
Yeah.
Explosive traits do matter. He was as explosive as Zion Johnson. Once Zion Johnson went off the board, they traded down and they took someone who is very similar physically to Zion Johnson. So there you go. That's it explained, I think, in terms of what the Patriots did. Let's have a look who's available then. I mean, the big talking point. I mean, I've got my head in my hands, Robbie, because I clicked on I always like to watch the calls, with the players. I think it's quite fun to watch that, and John Schneider's ringing Charles Cross. And I clicked on the tweet and I'm looking down, my eyes drawn to the comments. And nearly every comment that was in reply to that tweet was, draft Malik Willis. Why didn't you trade up to draft Malik Willis? Why don't you take Malik Willis? Make sure you come away with Malik Willis. And I'm like, no, just no. This is a guy who, and this is the other thing, Robbie, okay? How much have we been talking about how bad this quarterback class is, right? And people went, there's always going to be 2 in the top 10. There's always going to be 1 taken early. Malik Willis, he's throwing in shorts. He's got Bermuda shorts on or whatever. And he looks amazing with that one pass on Twitter. Draft the guy. He's going to go to the Lions at 2. He's going to be drafted by he didn't even go in the first round. No one has taken him in the first round. He isn't any good. He is not good. That's it. He's not good. Desmond Ridder's not good. Matt Corral's better than those 2, but still not great. They're all third-round guys. Kenny Pickett's a third-round guy. This is what Scott McLuhan told us a few weeks ago, that all of these guys have third-round grades. That's why they've not gone in the first round. The Steelers have taken one, Robbie, because they think Kenny Pickett can come in and lead them now. And they think they're ready to compete. And they're going to give him the chance to win that job. And he's a local guy. That's it. But in any other draft, he'd have been a third-round pick. So do not draft Millie Willis tomorrow. Do not draft Desmond Ridder. I wouldn't even draft. Like, Matt Corral for me is the most likely of the three. And Sam Howell's the other one. No. No. Do not draft him either. Draft best player available. Build your trenches up. Get that done, Robbie. Do not take these quarterbacks because they stink.
No, I mean, I fully agree. I mean, if you want to take one later, if they fall past the third round, you want to do it in the fourth, fifth round, sure. But I wouldn't take one in the next three picks.
Do you think they will? Do you think there's something in this Ridder stuff? Could you imagine Pete Carroll going, do you know what? I like his moxie. I like the fact that he led them to some wins. But then there's, the accuracy's crap. He's awful in the fourth quarter. He's not very good at the start of games. It takes him ages to warm up.
Yeah, I would just rather just go with Drew Lock this year and just draft quarterback next year. Just don't even bother.
Do you know, the thing is that no one could suggest for a second that I've got everything right. And my mock draft, I have no idea. I think I got 5 picks right, and actually that's not too bad. 5 or 6 is fine. But I've got the quarterback class right because generally I had the Panthers trading down and taking Pickett because of the David Tepper stuff and the Matt Rule stuff, and they didn't do that. That's fine. But before that, it was Pickett's going to go in that kind of range that he went, and Willis might go there too, and that's it. And then another one might sneak in, but they're not good enough. They're not good enough. And the idea of taking one of these guys and saying that's our guy. Now listen. It's somebody sent me something earlier, and I have no idea whether it's valid or not. But it implied that, and I trust the information, although I can't verify it, that the Seahawks are going to wait till next year on the quarterbacks. I really hope that's true. Nothing, and I think the fans will be excited, Robbie. The ones at least responding in that tweet will be very excited if they take Malik Willis. But I will not be excited by that. And I wonder what the reaction will be, Robbie, if when they're on the clock again at 40 and 41 and they use 2 picks and Willis is still there and they don't take him with either. Because, all these people now who are very giddy and excited about the fact he's still available are going to go absolutely nuts. But it would be the right decision to pass on him.
It would be the right decision.
Thanks again to Jared for the comment, and he obviously agrees with the quarterbacks. And the other thing to mention is Lance Zierlein's grade for Drew Lock was a 6.40. Malik Willis was a 6.41, and the others were below either a 6.40 or lower. There's no point drafting any of these guys because they're graded the same as Drew Lock. You might as well just give Drew Lock a go. You might as well just do it. They'll be as good. Reflect the Sun, thank you for your support. Thank you for the super chat. If you want to send in a super chat, it is 5:49 in the morning. I'm very tired. But if you want to send them in, we will come to them straight away. I think this is an interesting point. Alex says Peter King had a podcast that said he talked to a GM that knows he needs to take a quarterback in the next 2 years, but won't take one this year. We know Schneider's tight with Peter King. He is. He's very close. And I would not be surprised, Alex, if you are spot on with that he was talking to John Schneider. So yeah, interesting. Are you surprised that Nakobe Dean from Georgia didn't get drafted? I'm not. I'm not surprised. And who do you want at 40-41, Rob? Well, I'll tell you what, Robbie, I'll let you answer that first and then I'll give my take. Shall I run through some of the players who are available first?
I mean, I've got a list right here, but yeah, go for it.
Okay, let me dig it out here. I've been sort of removing names from my horizontal board. So Travis Jones is still available, Robbie. I mean, they don't need a defense of all the positions. They've loaded up at defensive tackle, but he is a tremendous player, and I would not be disappointed if they took him.
No, especially just after his Senior Bowl.
Oh, fantastic Senior Bowl. Fantastic.
Incredible.
Abraham Lucas. I would have. I'm just giving you the names that I like.
He was going to be my first one. Hey, if you're going to take your left tackle, take a right tackle too. Let's do it. Build them up. Let's do it. Why not?
Completely agree. I love Abraham Lucas, and he is a terrific run blocker. People think, oh, two air raid. No, they're not two air raid tackles. They haven't been the air raid for a couple of years. They ran the ball 45% of the time, I think, last year, and 42% of the time before. And his run blocking grade is 91.0 on PFF, and it's significantly better than his pass blocking grade. So he's not an air raid pass pro type guy. I would happily take Abraham Lucas at number 40. And if that's the way they went, Robbie, I would celebrate that pick. Absolutely. So Abraham Lucas, Cam Jurgens, I would celebrate that pick too. I love a bit of Cam Jurgens. I know you love a bit of Cam Jurgens.
I love
we
I love that
we
guy.
both love a bit of Cam Jurgens, don't we? So I am down for a slice of Cam Jurgens. Boya Mafe, pass rusher. David Ajabo's fallen, but he won't play this year. I can't see them taking Ajabo and stashing him.
I wouldn't hate that idea though.
I would hate that idea.
Really? I don't know. I don't think
I don't want to draft someone who you're not going to see for 12 months. I mean, when I say see, I mean even getting on the practice field, and you never know how. Trent Baalke used to do all this. Robbie, he used to draft players who were injured and couldn't play in the first year, and how many of them ever worked out? He always did this. It cost him his job in San Francisco. I'd rather draft somebody who can play this year. I'll let somebody else take that chance with David Ajabo, and he was raw anyway. Anyway, back to the list. Sam Williams. I like Sam Williams. He may last a lot longer, Robbie, because of the supposed character issues, but I really like Sam Williams. Channing Tindall, Leo Chenal, Troy Anderson, Nakobe Dean. Good linebackers there. Andrew Booth, Kyler Gordon are two corners available. I don't think they're going to go in that direction. Take the corners that I really like, Robbie, for tomorrow. MJ Emerson, Damari Mathis, and Cam Taylor-Britt. Love them.
I like Cam Taylor-Britt.
All three of them. They're very similar, They're all very physical. Mm-hmm. They'll all come up and smack you in the face. They're all pretty good. They're all in gold on my board for that reason. Logan Hall still there, Robbie? Interior rusher, inside-out type of guy. Perion Winfrey still there. A lot of people like him. Zach Tom, I really like him. Zach Tom is basically the same build as Charles Cross. So more explosive, but, you could maybe have two of them, Zach Tom played left tackle at Wake Forest. Bernard Ryman still there, but he's got short arms. You've got the tight ends, the receivers. I don't think they're going to go in that direction. And do you know what else you have, Robbie? You have a whole stable of running backs still available.
That's right. You have the pick of the litter.
And you know what? People will hate that. But I couldn't give a crap. If they're going best player available and they took Breece Hall or Kenneth Walker in the second round, I couldn't care. They're good players.
Yeah.
The Seahawks need talent. Mm-hmm. But you know what the reaction would be, don't you, Robbie, from the analytics crowd?
Oh, yeah.
I suspect there's quite a few of that crowd who are very excited about the Charles Cross pick and envisions a life when Pete Carroll embraces his inner Andy Reid, and a pick of a running back at 40 or 41 would send them spiraling back into old man Pete territory. So yeah. So who positions, Robbie, players? You've got two picks. Let's just for the purpose of this scenario, say they're not going to trade down. There might not be an offer to trade down, so you can't force it. Who do you want them to take? Who do you think they'll take?
Well, I think you need to take a defensive end or excuse me, or a defensive tackle. And just beef up the line. And like I said, I would be okay with an offensive tackle as well. You go for a second. Sorry.
Robbie's having a coughing fit. Is that a beer he's having there to what have you got there, Robbie? Just hold it up so we can see. Strawberry. I don't know what that is. We don't have that over here. Once you finish coughing your guts out, we'll have a chat.
Sorry about that. Strawberry water.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah. No. I think beefing up the line. I think if you take another tackle, I would not be mad about that, or a guard. Defensive end. If you wanted to get a corner like Kyler Gordon, I wouldn't be upset about that either. A linebacker. Just build around the trenches. I don't think I would want to take a running back at this position at this point because I think you can get the same kind of talent in round 3. You know, if you wanted to trade down. But if you can't, if you're saying you would not trade down, then that's what I do. Just beef up the lines. Keep doing that.
This is the first time I've actually thought about who I would like them to pick, Robbie. I think one of the I'd be happily go with one of those two of the picks being Abraham Lucas or Cam Jurgens. You know, if you've made your bed, if you're doing it this way, then go and get Abraham Lucas or Cam Jurgens. You know, you've taken Charles Cross. If you really believe in Austin Blythe, then go and get Abe Lucas. Sort out your 2 tackle positions and go with that. And I think Abraham Lucas has got a case to be made for him being the best player available, frankly. But if it was Cam Jurgens, I like Cam Jurgens. And he can play guard or centre, I think, given his size. I really, do you know the thing about Boya Mafe, Robbie? He's one of those players, Boya Mafe, the pass rusher at Minnesota, who, if you were to ask me to just sort of review Mafe, I would say, look, very, very fluid at the Senior Bowl, great pass rusher, very smooth, made it look easy, wins with his hands, wins with his speed, explosive athlete. You know, there's no real negatives, are there? But for some reason, I just can't quite, you know, if they'd have drafted Jermaine Johnson or Kayvon Thibodeau, I'd have been, whoa, yeah, you know, here we go. With Mafe, there's just something holding me back. I think there's something about his tape that you see the flashes, but there's not that sort of real dominant, aggressive, gonna get after it. Love this, love the traits, love the potential. Wish we'd seen a bit more in college. That's the kind of thing. So whether that translates or not. So for that reason, I would probably say that my favorite potential picks would be Abraham Lucas, Cam Jurgens, Travis Jones, Channing Tindall, Leo Chanel. That's probably it. I mean, there's not that many great options. I mean, there are options. But if you were to say to me, Rob, I mean, like when you do the sort of the Pro Football Network simulators, I mean, I was coming up with stuff like Zion Johnson and Tyler Linderbaum, and then a pass rusher or a linebacker. You know, that for me would have been like, ooh, that's exciting. I'm not sure Charles Cross, Abe Lucas, and Boya Mafe would necessarily make me feel right. There's your next great core. There's your Wagner, Wilson, type draft. I'm not sure about that, Robbie. So that makes me kind of think, yeah, this could end up being one of those classes again. And maybe Seattle's best work's going to be 3rd, 4th, 5th round. And for that reason, maybe actually looking at that board, Robbie, I'd probably say use 1 pick and trade down.
Well, I was saying that earlier. I kind of feel like that regardless, if they didn't move down from 9, that they were going to probably trade one of these picks down and snag some other picks would be kind of my guess. They have so many holes. I think they adding more picks is not a bad thing, and especially since it's a fairly deep draft. Like I said, there's talent there at the 3rd round as well. Use one of these seconds, pick up some other picks and go from there.
Drake Jackson got a lot of buzz late in the day as well. I'm not really sold on him. He's another one who's like, you want to see a bit more from him. He's still there. Nick Benito. I like Nick Benito. I can't really see Nick Benito being anything more than Uchenna and Wosu's been in the NFL. Yeah, I could see maybe trading down and embracing that there are some good options in those middle rounds. I have to say, Robbie, looking at all of this and sort of seeing who's available, it kind of brings you back to wondering whether they'll just draft Matt Corral at 40 or Desmond Ridder. It just makes me think that maybe they will.
I hope not, because I feel like if they do that, that's going to take them out of the running next year for a quarterback.
Possibly. I mean, Arizona took Josh Rosen at number 10 or 11 or 12, wasn't it? And then they drafted Kyler Murray. So you never know.
Yeah, I guess if a new regime comes in, maybe, but I don't know.
I don't know. As I'm sort of running through that list, part of me then sort of thinks, could they have traded up? Could they have gone and got well, Jermaine Johnson or Devontae Wyatt or Tyler Linderbaum there, Robbie. 25, 26, 27. I don't know what. Don't have to hand what teams spent to move up a little bit there, but for a fourth, if you'd have got Tyler Linderbaum, would you have done it? I probably would have done, to be honest.
I don't know. I mean, but if they grab Cam at 40, you're gonna be upset. Then you're like, okay, you got them, and then you grab Abe Lucas at 41, and you just beefed up your whole O line. I don't know.
Do you think they will take a quarterback tomorrow?
No, I don't. I think they're gonna wait.
We'll see. Right. Okay. I think we're just about done there. Unless there's anything else you want to mention, Robbie.
I'm good. We'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah, we're back tomorrow. We'll react to it. Obviously, we've got 3 picks, and we'll see if anything else happens. So there we go. And just listen. However you feel, just enjoy the draft. You don't have to love every pick. You don't have to expect everybody to love every pick either. So just enjoy it. Let's get through it. Let's debate this. Go and watch some Charles Cross tape tonight. If you are living in America, if you're in England like me, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Get yourself to bed.
Yeah.
Right. There we go. We'll see you tomorrow. Until then, bye for now.